Been able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have LIV.
1, 2, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when there's this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in LIV Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Puig birdie 8, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire on SportsGrid. Happy Monday to those of you tuning in and streaming us live here on SportsGrid TV. Thanks so much for being part of the show. We've got a great rundown for you this afternoon as we prepared some of the biggest stories and the best guests here on the show as we get into it today. We're going to break down our first look at some of the NFL teams, and we take a look at the New England Patriots. Adam Kaufman will join us a little bit later, latest in Major League Baseball, as Adam Lutovsky is here on the show. Also, Pat Evans with the very latest on sports betting. There is a new sports betting operator to leave the United States online, staying in Las Vegas. We'll tell you who that is coming up in just a few minutes. And, of course, we'll get to the very latest on the PGA Tour, where we have another major in the books and another major player winning a major. Xander Schauffele wins again, a major championship victory. And basically, this is the hottest golfer right now in the PGA Tour. Yes, I said it. Ahead of Scottie Scheffler, he ends up winning the Open Championship, as you can see there, by a couple of strokes over Justin Rose. And that's the final leaderboard there. So as you see, Scottie Scheffler not there. Xander winning yet again, second major of the year. So congratulations to him. And we'll see who ends up having the best year overall. That decision is going to come pretty soon as well. But needless to say, Xander, after winning yesterday, talked about winning the British Open Championship and raising the claret jug.
Yeah, it's an honor. I've always dreamt of doing it. That walk-up 18 truly is the coolest, with the yellow leaderboards and the fans and the standing ovation. It really is the coolest, one of the coolest feelings I've ever had in my life. I got chills walking down and quickly had to zap myself back into focus because the tournament wasn't over yet. So, you know, I can't wait to enjoy this with my family. It was hard. It was very difficult. I think winning the first one helped me a lot today on the back nine. I had some feeling of calmness come through, and it was very helpful on what has been one of the hardest back nines I've ever played in a tournament. So it's it's a dream come true to win two majors in 1 year. It took me forever just to win one, and to have two now is something else.
Yeah, historic season for Xander Schauffele. Great job there for him. All right, now for those of you who have been to Las Vegas before and may have been to the Superbook out there, it's the most popular sports book in Vegas. They have been online in several states since, of course, sports betting has become legal. But those days are coming to an end. An announcement on Saturday that Superbook on their social media account said that they are closing all of their online sports books outside of Nevada. So very big news there. Arguably, again, the most popular and most intense sports book with the most options in Las Vegas, no longer available in the United States. Pat Evans will give us the latest as to why they made this decision coming up in about 20 minutes from now. So stay with us because I'm curious as well. All right, now over in the National Football League, training camps are getting ready to open. Rookies are reporting, and then full training camps are later this week. Hall of Fame game, by the way, coming up in less than 2 weeks. We're not going to see Jordan Love, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, take the field at least until training camp. An announcement today by Love, he's in the building and participating in meetings, but he is not taking the field until they finalize a new contract. The extension is expected to exceed $50 million a year as Love came into his own in a very big way last year with the Green Bay Packers, leading them to a very nice season, but with no extension, no field time as of yet for Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. All right, speaking of no field time in the future for Ozzie Albies, the Braves with yet another injury. They've already lost so many players this year. Ronald Acuna Jr. for the season. And, of course, they have lost their great pitcher, Spencer Strider, for the season. Now, Ozzie Albies has a fracture in his wrist and is going to miss approximately 8 weeks of time. They did sign Whit Merrifield to replace him, but Brian Snitker last night after the game basically saying he doesn't know how many injuries they can overcome.
No, it seemed to be. No, but, I mean, it's runner hit it, and that's never good. But, I mean, he'll obviously go on the IL and just, go through the moves and all that kind of stuff this evening. Yeah, no, it is. I mean, gets to a point where, you kind of over the top here a little bit, and it's just you can't cover it. Yes, you don't. Depth will cover to an extent, but after a while, it's hard.
Braves will have to be involved in the trade deadline, I would assume, coming up next week as well. So will the Seattle Mariners. They've already made some moves that would probably spin your head at the beginning of the season. They have designated for assignment Ty France, once upon a time, really good hitter for them over the last couple of years, struggling big time this year. Looks like France is probably headed to a new team. We will see. Seattle absolutely has to be involved in that deadline next week. Meanwhile, Yordan Alvarez hit for the cycle yesterday for the Houston Astros, so congrats to him. 1 o'clock Eastern, we do have baseball today. There's some wraparound games in Major League Baseball. One of them, Yankees and Rays. They'll begin at 1 o'clock Eastern today. Over in the National Football League, a new contract extension. It is extension season, so to speak. Kenny Clark, 3 years, $64 million with the Packers, so they're giving out a lot of money lately. How much is left for Love, we will see. Daniel Jones, of course, missed a lot of time last season with an ACL injury, had it back in November, was not fully cleared in the spring, but right now it looks like Daniel Jones will be back on the field for training camp, and the quote that he used yesterday was, "Yeah, should be ready to go." Veterans report to Giants camp on Tuesday. First practice is Wednesday. Another free agent running back has signed. Cam Akers, former high pick, of course, out of Florida State, played for the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings, has signed with the Houston Texans. Joe Mixon signed with them in the offseason. Damian Pierce is also there, so clearly Akers will just try and make the team this year. Kind of a fall from grace, unfortunately, for him. And by the way, still one first-round pick unsigned. Would you believe this? I didn't even know this. Amarius Mims is the last first-round pick, finally got a contract signed, $15 million, $7.9 million signing bonus, signs that deal today with a fifth-year option so he could get into camp. It was the very last one. Didn't realize that anybody was unsigned to this point. All right, also didn't realize that a basketball player has never been the USA flag bearer at the opening ceremonies this week in Paris. LeBron James was named the flag bearer. It's the first time ever that a men's basketball player is going to carry the flag for Team USA. Women's basketball player Sue Bird did it in 2020. Dawn Staley did it in 2004. Now LeBron James, of course, participating in another Olympics after winning some golds in 2008 and 2012 and a bronze in 2004. LeBron, you will see him on Friday. The ACC, their football, is having their meetings this week, so we'll learn more about this story coming up tomorrow. But as of right now, it looks like Florida State and Clemson are not leaving the Atlantic Coast Conference for another conference, which is really big news because the ACC is going to be hard to survive without them. They had to make that decision official by August the 15th. They had to make a decision by today, and so the commissioner of their conference is speaking today. We'll get more news on this for you tomorrow on the show. Contract extension in the NBA. Boston Celtics forward Sam Hauser, one of the NBA's best three-point shooters, has agreed to a 4-year, $45 million contract, ESPN is reporting. He'll make $2 million in the 2024-25 season, will be under contract 28-29, and they're about $225 million in terms of their salaries this year for the Boston Celtics, so they're going to have to pay that luxury tax penalty as well. By the way, a brand new show debuting on SportsGrid today. When we are done, we've got the early line coming up at 12, but want to invite you at 1 o'clock Eastern. It's the debut of our brand new show on SportsGrid TV. It is Kaplan and Crew, 1 o'clock Eastern on SportsGrid, hosted by Scott Kaplan, who, of course, has covered the NFL and everything under the sun out west for several years. So make sure you tune in at 1 o'clock Eastern today. That'll be just before Pharrell Coast to Coast, back on the air today at 3 o'clock Eastern. All right, let's take a quick time out here on the show. Baseball season is heating up. Trade deadline is next week. Matt Lutovsky will join us. We'll talk about the division leaders and the potential wild cards and how the Braves pivot from Ozzie Albies if there is a trade to be made. We'll break it down for you next.
As of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on SiriusXM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
If this wind, like we have out of the Northwest, was here all week, it would be insane watching these guys play in it. But it's going to be a southwest wind, which makes it a little easier as far as the direction of the wind. And the guys will have it a little bit of a break on the back nine. But it is such a fun golf course, one that I really do think tests every single aspect of your game.
Only on SportsGrid.
Now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. But that's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Major League Baseball, pivotal moment coming up with the trade deadline next week. So many teams are still within striking distance that even as of now, it's really hard to figure out who's in and who's out. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of it. Matt Lutovsky joins us here on the show. And, Matt, certainly, we're going to get into this and talk about all the good teams and the teams that are trying to be better. But, I guess we just have to acknowledge that with the amount of wild cards there are, that it feels sort of unprecedented that this year has so many teams in it. But I think this is the future of baseball, not knowing on July 30th if you're in or you're out.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way, especially in the National League, where you're pretty much all but two teams are in the mix. I mean, Rockies fans, Marlins fan, you can kind of sit this one out and maybe hope for a trade, but everyone else is in the mix for at least that final wild card spot in the NL. The AL isn't quite as wide open. It's a little more condensed there, but yeah, the NL. I mean, we could see a very, very active deadline. There might not be a lot of huge names, but there's certainly going to be movement as these teams try to fine tune and really decide, okay, what do we want? Is it worth even going for it? Or maybe this is a year where they say, hey, because so many teams are still in it and potentially making moves, that might be a market inefficiency for us. And we can actually make a deal this year that's going to set us up for the future. Because with teams like the Dodgers or the Phillies or the Yankees or the Orioles or whatever team you think might be a favorite, we're probably not winning it all anyway. So let's sort of take a step back, even though it tends to be disappointing to the fans.
Understood. Yeah, and let's start off with the Dodgers. I mean, we know that they're going to be doing something coming up next week. Really impressive series, I thought, against the Boston Red Sox over the weekend. So they're still behind the Phillies for the number one overall, but that's not going to bother them at all. They're 59-41 on the season, and they're supposed to get this week both Tyler Glasnow and Clayton Kershaw back for what is expected to be a very strong rotation. Yamamoto eventually will return too. But look, we know, Matt, that them standing pat over the next week's impossible. They're going to try and add some pieces to get them to the World Series, because I think you and I would agree. I guess if you get to the World Series and you lose, you can't complain because anything can happen in a 7-gamer. But Matt, anything short of that would be a disappointment this year.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you say you can't complain. Well, I guarantee you there'll be fans that are complaining. And yeah, you want to win the World Series. This team is built to win the World Series. It has the payroll of a team that should win the World Series. So I don't think they're going to stand pat. They're getting healthy. Eventually, we know Mookie Betts will be back too. But the more they can add, the more they can bolster, the more that they can have reinforcements in case another injury comes. Because a team can be getting healthy 1 week and 2 weeks from now can be getting hurt again. So they're going to be looking for reinforcements. I think you can never have enough pitching because we know in the playoffs, pitchers just pitch less. The starters, I should say. You're doing a lot more specialty stuff. You're mixing and matching. And I think they'll be looking for more pitching just to keep that rotation and that bullpen even stronger.
Right. And I think it's fair to say that the Phillies are the odds-on favorite right now on FanDuel to have the number one seed in the East. The Dodgers are 2-1. I mean, the Braves, look, this is just one of those seasons where they're going to be happy to get in, and they will. I mean, they're 10-1, but they're not going to be the number one seed. It won't be Milwaukee. So it's probably down to Philly and LA. I mean, is it that far out of a reach to think, Matt, that the Dodgers could catch the Phillies? I mean, 2-1 is not a bad bet, I think, before the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. When you can bet on a team with that much talent and a team that is going to make a big move, or at least a move, at the deadline, I think that makes for a good bet. Like you said earlier, though, I don't think the Dodgers are really going to push for that, which might be a minor worry. But the value is there on that bet. There's no question about it because you're back at a winning team.
All right, now let's take a look at the wild card scenario, because I think that is what's going to go down to the last day of the season. It nearly did last year, Matt, as you know. And again, Arizona coming down to the last day, they end up going to the World Series. So you got to fight. Braves are 54-44. I feel really good about them, and I think they'll probably tinker a little bit with their team. So I probably have them in. But Matt, after that, I don't know. Like, the Cardinals started off so poor. They've been two different teams this season. Mets just lost 2 out of 3 to Miami. Arizona's finally picked it up here a little bit. I have some confidence in them. San Diego's 2 games over. We know it's a hugely important season for them to get back into the postseason. And by the way, the Pirates are right there, 1 game over too. And I kind of feel like the Pirates also are another team, Matt, that they're not going to sit back at the deadline. But there's only 3 spots for those 6 teams, and we didn't even do the Cubs or the Reds. And I think those teams right now kind of feel like they're hanging around too. Too close to call, it feels like, right? Like all these teams?
Yeah, it is really tough. Like you said, the Braves have a 4-game lead right now on dropping out of the wild card. So even as the injuries mount for them, you still feel like that's enough of a head start and they still have enough talent. But the rest of those teams, yeah, mix them up in a hat and pick names. You know, the Pirates are the most interesting. They're the hottest team right now. We know about Skeens Mania. I don't know if they really want to get in there. Honestly, they're already a little worried, I think, about Skeens' innings, and to get another start too, or potentially more in the postseason scares them. But obviously, they're going to go for it. I mean, at least the players on the field are. I don't know if they're going to make any big deals. But yeah, there's a lot of talent there. I think you mentioned the Padres. They're a team that I would think can get it together and do enough to get in. But I mean, yeah, there's no way of knowing those final two spots. It's going to just be kind of a mad rush down the stretch. And like you said, there might be a team you just didn't post on that graphic that really gets hot and really gets going and jumps in there. There's plenty of good ones within 4 games. But when you have that many teams, 4 games is a lot to jump over. If it's just like there's 2 teams, one needs to make up 4 games, you can see it happening. But when there's that many teams in your way, it's tough to see like the Nationals getting in there. But it's going to be a fun race down the stretch. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and I think a team like Pittsburgh, you know, and if Cincinnati, it doesn't look like they're going to jump back in it, but if Cincinnati was to also, I mean, you've got to send the message to the fans that you're going to at least try, you know, to get in there. So I think it does create a lot. And by the way, I don't think anything's going to be settled next week. Teams are going to have to blind guess as to whether they're in, they're out. I feel like that's the way it's going to go. All right, Matt, thanks for coming on the show. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk again soon.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Sports Grid Sound Off coming up next. LeBron talks about the holding of the flag coming up on Friday at the opening ceremonies at the Olympics. Also, Christian DeBlock weighs in on the Cavaliers.
As of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on SiriusXM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
If this wind, like we have out of the Northwest, was here all week, it would be insane watching these guys play in it. But it's going to be a southwest wind, which makes it a little easier as far as the direction of the wind. The guys will have it a little bit of a break on the back nine. But it is such a fun golf course, one that I really do think tests every single aspect of your game.
Only on SportsGrid.
Now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. It's almost time for the Sports Grid Sound Off, where we take a look at some of the things trending on social media, videos, and so forth, outside of politics, of course, which I know has everybody captivated over the last 24 hours. But we'll see if we can dive into sports today. And, of course, we'll touch on 3 different topics today. The Olympics coming up in Paris, the Cleveland Cavaliers with a new contract extension, and what to make of some comments from the manager of the New York Yankees. It's time for the Sports Grid Sound Off. All right, so the Olympics are coming up, and we found out who is going to be bearing Team USA's flag at the opening ceremonies. It's going to be none other than LeBron James, who's no stranger to the gold medal, no stranger to the Olympics, and no stranger, of course, to basketball. For the first time ever, a player on the men's side is going to bear that flag, and they ended up naming LeBron James the guy. Seems like a pretty good choice, and you talk about a very big honor that has only been given to several athletes across the world over the last few decades. LeBron is now the next one. Says he's honored to do so.
And it's special in the fact that to get an opportunity to represent your country, in another fashion, to be able to understand how prestigious this moment is, and for someone to have to be the flag bearer and to wave the flag for not only for us as a men's national team, but for all the Olympians. I hold that with the utmost honor, and it's definitely something that my family and my community and my friends is something that will live on forever, and super appreciative and super humble about it.
We'll have tons of coverage on the Olympics coming up later this week here on SportsGrid from Sporting News, and all of our guest contributors breaking down all the events from Paris. Meanwhile, in the National Basketball Association, another contract extension given out late last week. Evan Mobley ends up signing a new deal with the Cleveland Cavaliers, coming off a 15.7 point, 9.4 rebound season as Cleveland with a new head coach trying to do things in a little bit of a different way. But will it lead to success on the basketball court this coming season? Our social media correspondent Christian DeBlock weighs in on this latest new deal.
The Cavaliers now have Evan Mobley under contract through 2029, Darius Garland through 2027, and Donovan Mitchell through 2027. That's a good start. But in a conference that includes the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, even the Philadelphia 76ers, Cleveland needs more top-end talent in order to be legitimate contenders. Name to watch out for in terms of trades is Jarrett Allen. It's difficult to play with two bigs, especially in the postseason, and his contract is up in 2 years. Cleveland doesn't have complete control of any of their first-round picks until 2030. Maybe they package that along with Allen to go get a two-way player that can average 12 to 15 points along with playing strong defense. But as currently constructed, the Cavaliers are not a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference. Back to you, Craig.
All right, thanks very much, Christian. Of course, a lot of basketball attention will be on Paris with the Olympics coming up, but needless to say, the NBA season and training camp starts back up in late September and October, and we'll check in with the NBA back then. All right, Major League Baseball continues. New York Yankees seem to have righted the ship a little bit, but needless to say, still some struggles going on with the Yankees on their offense and hitting and just everything that's sort of going on. And a very fascinating postgame yesterday from the manager of the New York Yankees, Aaron Boone, making some football comparisons to his baseball team. Here's what Boone had to say about his team after the game.
I mean, that's for us right now. That's what's been a challenge, is breaking through. I think we had 15 base runners today. You sign up for that. I think we're having a lot of really good at-bats. Even in those first couple innings, Doogie lines out 10 the first. Juan gets 3-0 there and gets to look like a center cut pitch and smokes the ball. So it's not bounced our way, but we got to make it happen. And, we're giving ourselves opportunities, and name of the game is cashing in. And it's, kind of like in football, I feel like we're stopping the run. We're getting to third and long, and we got to find a way to break through.
I don't know that I get that comparison. It feels like apples and oranges. Third and long when you have the bases loaded? I think it's like the opposite of that. I feel like you're on the goal line, Booney. I don't know. All right. Anyway, coming up next, we're going to hear from Pat Evans as to why a very popular sports book in Las Vegas is pulling back on their online gaming in the United States. We'll have that story for you next.
as of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on SiriusXM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
If this wind, like we have out of the Northwest, was here all week, it would be insane watching these guys play in it. But it's going to be a southwest wind, which makes it a little easier as far as the direction of the wind. And the guys will have it a little bit of a break on the back nine. But it is such a fun golf course, one that...
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid, as we are halfway through the year here in 2024, and sports betting stories are still very prevalent. Probably the biggest sports betting story are the controversies surrounding player suspensions. But maybe the second biggest story is the fact that there's been so much pullback from operators here in the United States, and yet another one leaving the States in a lot of different places, and that is the ever-popular Superbook out of Las Vegas. Arguably the top sports betting sportsbook in Vegas has decided they no longer want to operate in several states. So let's bring in Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report to get the very latest. And Pat, if anybody's ever been to Vegas and they're just into betting on sports, that is the place to go. So naturally, they thought opening up a sports book that people can bet live in a lot of different states would move the needle. Apparently not.
No, I mean, they are now pulling, I think it's 8 states, including, they're partnered with the Orioles in Maryland. They're partnered with the Bengals in Cincinnati, in Ohio. I mean, there's some big partnerships, and they just have not been able to move the needle in terms of those markets. I think our Matt Waters has a great story over at Legal Sports Report. You should go read it. Kind of goes a little bit more in detail than we will today, but all those states below 0.05 market share, and that's not moving the needle. And like you said, this is a huge retail sports book and even online sports book in Nevada that a lot of people go to, know it. I mean, I think to your point, before the rise of sports betting, if you were talking about sports betting, you're thinking somewhere like the Superbook in Nevada. And yeah, just haven't been able to move the needle. What's interesting here is that kind of overshadowed another sports book that is pulling out of markets similarly in Betfred. They're still live in a few states, but they said they're pulling out of Ohio. They have already pulled out of Maryland. And those two things were right there on Friday and Saturday, or I think both on Friday. And I mean, that's 2 more sports books that are calling it quits this year. I think that brings us up to 5, maybe, if I'm pulling them up my brain, and that's a lot in one. I mean, when you think about it, how many sports books have been kind of generating noise in the industry, and this one's launching, this brand is here, and they're just not moving the needle, and they say, you know what, it's not worth it. To your point, again, Superbook has a great business in Las Vegas, so I think they just want to concentrate on what they know and can do well. Of note, they can't do their super contest across state borders per the Wire Act, so I think that probably hurts them a little bit because that's one of the things they're really known for. where, maybe if they were able to do that, then maybe they'd have a little bit more incentive to stay active in these states. But yeah, 2 more sports books as of last week are calling it quits in the Betfred, sort of, in the U.S. sports betting landscape.
Yeah, and for that super contest, as I've participated in for many years, you have to hire a proxy service to go ahead and place those, not bets, but place those picks for you for the super contest every week. I love those contests and love talking about them here on the show. But unfortunately, as you said, and I don't know, by the way, why one of these companies hasn't come out with that kind of contest. It would be great to play in FanDuel, DraftKings, somewhere else. Okay, so Superbook stepping back, Betfred stepping back, ESPN Bet having their troubles as well. I mean, that seems like the story that we're sort of headed for here over the next 6 months. And Pat, what I really find interesting about this is that some of these smaller sports betting operators and the ones you're saying they're not getting the market share, they're not even willing to wait, it seems like, for California to go live and Texas to go live, because when those states go live too, you would think there'd be an influx. But I guess that's kind of where we're headed, is the leaders in sports betting are going to continue to be the leaders, TBD, until anything changes soon.
Yeah, I think we're seeing true consolidation at the top. I mean, FanDuel and DraftKings are very clearly 1 and 2 in sports betting handle and market share. BetMGM, Caesars not far behind. Fanatics are right there. And even BetRivers has generated probably enough market share to say this is worth it. And then the rest are just kind of trying to fight out with what's left. And then you have to figure out the business side of it for them. Is that handle and revenue enough to make it worthwhile and have a profit share? And as we mentioned, I mean, multiple books now this year alone have said, no way, we can't do this, from SaharaBet, which was only in Arizona, to Unibet and Bet365 saying, this is not 365. We'll talk about them in a minute. Betway, European operators saying this market just isn't us. We're not being very successful. We can't make this work. I mean, that's 5 this year. We've got 12, I think, was Matt's count on Saturday when he wrote up the Superbook story, as since the launch, fell. I mean, that's a huge amount of operators in 6 years to say, let's try it. Oops, it didn't work, and pull out. Meanwhile, we've got multiple operators at the top just really raking it in. We've got a few operators, one we'll talk about in a minute, still trying to make it work. You've got Underdog Fantasy, that they're making their way with the sportsbook endeavor. So there's still some new, entrants really trying to drum up some business. But for the most part, the small ones, as you're mentioning, they're just struggling to secure any significant market share, and seeing that as a problem towards profitability in the long term. So, like you said, you could stick it out for maybe Texas or California, but again, who knows how long that's going to be. And so how much more money do you have to bleed to make sure you're going to hit those populations? And will anything change if you do get to that? And if it doesn't, then you've just wasted even more money. So it's a whole thing. And it's just continuing to be interesting to watch. But between the kind of consolidation and the dropping out of the market to the legislative side, where nothing really happened this year in terms of new states legalizing, this has been a really interesting kind of slow negative year in sports betting news, I suppose, if you wanted to kind of qualify it.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels that way. We had the big boom, and now we have some pullback here, which is probably just regression to the mean, is what they call it. It seems probably normal.
True.
All right, so positive story to end with. Bet365, they are launching in a very big market in sports betting in Pennsylvania. Bet365, one of those companies, just as we've talked about, Pat, is very well established all over the world. And so this is the kind of company that things like this make sense for, because, again, if it doesn't work, they just go back to doing what they've been doing, a very successful company.
Yeah, so they soft launched late last week into Pennsylvania, as you mentioned, one of the bigger sports betting and online casino states that is out there. And, they've slowly, methodically kind of rolled out. We've always talked about Bet365 since the get-go of being kind of this sleeping giant that's kind of circled. They're huge in Europe. They're huge in the rest of the world, and just kind of been circling the U.S., maybe waiting to see what's working, what's not. They've, dipped their toe in. They launched at the starting line in the likes of Kentucky. They've since opened up in Arizona, which is a nice market. I think they're in 8, maybe 10 markets now, and just kind of slowly coming in. They're starting to gain market share in different places because they do have a very well-known, experienced product, and it seems to be working out for them. And to your point, if in the long term it doesn't work out for them, they can just do as Betway and Unibet have done and pulled back a little bit and say, hey, it didn't work for us, but that's okay. We gave it our best shot. Again, they're giving it their best shot and starting to roll out. So we'll see in the long term if Bet365 can give some of the DraftKings and FanDuels a run for their money in the long run, Fanatics maybe, and kind of, at least make it a little bit more interesting at the top than we've had for the last couple of years.
Yeah, Bet365 very well established in the soccer landscape as well. All right, great to see you, Pat. Thanks for coming on the show, and the great stuff as always. I don't know if I'll see you later this week, but if not, I'll see you next week. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, great as always, Craig.
All right, Pat Evans, great stuff on Superbook and all other topics. Coming up next, Adam Kaufman joins us here on the show. Time for us to start diving into some football talk. NFL, college football. Our first look will be at the new coach of the New England Patriots next.
As of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on SiriusXM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
If this wind like we have out of the Northwest was here all week, it would be insane watching these guys play in it. But it's going to be a southwest wind, which makes it a little easier as far as the direction of the wind. The guys will have it a little bit of a break on the back nine. But it is such a fun golf course, one that I really do think tests every single aspect of your game.
Only on SportsGrid.
Now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, with football season around the corner, and by around the corner, I mean that the Hall of Fame game, folks, is next week. Literally next week. Like, we are here. NFL preseason, training camps, of course, opening, college football starting soon. Adam Kaufman's all excited. I'm sure he is, with the NFL coming back, as we all are here at SportsGrid, let's be honest. But today, I don't know how excited we could get. I mean, the New England Patriots, one of the best teams in the NFL for decades, entering a new era of football. So, Adam, you somehow you got to get me excited for Patriots football this season, because it hasn't been all that exciting the last couple of years, that's for sure.
Well, listen, I understand you're going to start your team-by-team training camp previews. You have to begin with the best, right? Which is very clearly the New England Patriots. Well, that was true for a couple decades, it felt like, as you noted. But yeah, this is a team with a preseason win total of 4.5. You probably have more people betting on them being the worst team in the NFL at, whatever those odds. I was looking at it earlier. I think plus 375 to have the fewest wins in the NFL. That being said, how about a little optimism to finish off people's mornings if you're on the East Coast like the Patriots? I think they're going over the 4.5, and I fully recognize that they are a team that, in terms of preseason lines, because we know that these do naturally evolve based around injuries and trends and whatever else over the course of the year, but preseason lines for every single game, the Patriots are underdogs for every single game. Bill Belichick is gone. You have the Gerard Mayo era starting off, the Alex Van Pelt offensive coordinator era beginning now. Drake May is the number 3 overall pick in the draft. He is on the roster, though does not project to see a whole lot of playing time with the veteran Jacoby Brissett there. So there are a number of questions geared around this team, what they're going to look like. I didn't even mention the fact that they have a really just a gauntlet of a schedule. Based on strength of schedule, it's one of the toughest in the NFL. They begin 3 of their first 4 on the road as well. So look, it doesn't project to be an easy season for New England, but I do think, just sort of, and I'm not going to bore you with all the intricacies of this stuff, but going game by game, looking at the schedule, figuring that the defense is going to once again be rock solid, the offense is going to find its way over the course of the year, and I think there are a couple of potential surprise spots in there. I think this is a team that is very capable of winning 5 or 6 games. Not being a playoff team, but winning 5 or 6 games and going over that 4.5.
Yeah, and again, it's one of the lowest totals in the NFL going into the season, and so generally, those things are very volatile. They could easily go over, easily go under, just depending on how the season goes. Bottom and the top is always that way in all sports with season win totals. So Bill Belichick is not there anymore, as you mentioned, because essentially of the drafting. I mean, let's be real. I mean, that's the reason. There's not a lot of young players outside of some of the defensive players that are there. So in terms of getting over the total, there's going to have to be some of these additions that we're going to look at. They're going to have to play a little bit above their heads. As you mentioned, minus 150 is the over on the 4.5 wins. The players they brought in aren't really needle movers, Adam, but they could potentially be players that play better than their contracts because there's not a lot of money shelled out this offseason to Jacoby Brissett or Antonio Gibson, who's underachieved for several years. KJ Osborne, when he played for Minnesota, was a good player, but he didn't get a ton of playing time. Austin Hooper on the back 9 of his career. And then they added an offensive tackle and a linebacker as well. You can educate me as to whether or not those move the needle at all. So what the Patriots are trying to do, Adam, here, spend a little and hope to get a little bit more out of what they spent. And if that works, trade those guys halfway through the season for something else, for more draft capital. Does that sound right?
Well, are you telling me that there isn't a back order for Austin Hooper jerseys at the Patriots Pro Shop right now? It's true. Obviously, they are talent deficient, and that a lot of people were thinking, hey, maybe that would change with Bill Belichick gone. In reality, all they really did this offseason is re-sign some of the better players under Belichick and didn't really bring in any incredibly new and interesting guys. Like the graphic showed, and I mentioned before, Jacoby Brissett, sure, he's their new starting quarterback, or at least projects to be to open the season. He's a former Belichick guy. The Patriots drafted him. So really, it's then Osborne and Hooper and Gibson. Gibson slides in, kind of replacing Ezekiel Elliott, who was here for 1 year, was pretty good actually, but goes back to Dallas. But still, it's the Ramondre Stevenson show as far as the backfield goes. And I think that's where, at least from a betting perspective, a lot of the attention should go is on Stevenson. They paid him, which is, you want to look for one big change between the Mayo and Elliott Wolf era. He is the de facto general manager of this team versus Belichick when he was running everything. Is one, they weren't handing out huge contracts to begin with, but they sure as hell weren't paying running backs. And Ramondre Stevenson gets a big deal, and, some of the numbers are still very much within reach. Like one of the futures, and I don't love to bet futures, but one of the futures that I bet for this team was Ramondre Stevenson over 4.5 rushing touchdowns. Even when he has been injured in the past, typically he has gotten to 5. And so I think that is a number that Alex Van Pelt and company, they're really going to lean on Stevenson. That was his MO in Cleveland. You know, granted, he had different types of weapons there with Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, but that was a team that was very much run first under Van Pelt, and I think this team is going to be pretty similar. As far as the receiving game goes, yeah, I mean, they tried, based on reports, to deal for Brandon Ayuk, and maybe that is not dead. That was back around the draft. We know he wants out of San Francisco. Maybe they'll kick the can down that road again. I hope they do, because they need a bona fide number one receiver. But you look at it, it's not KJ Osborne, at least it probably shouldn't be. Pop Douglas returns. He was their leader last year with very modest numbers, don't get me wrong, but he's a guy that they're going to be counting on. A couple of the rookies, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, guys that they took relatively early in the draft, they're going to get their opportunities as well. And from there, like Juju Smith-Schuster shouldn't even be on this roster. Devontae Parker was, left and has since retired anyway. They do not have a lot of weapons. It's going to be the defense carrying this team, which is why they were in so many low-scoring, tight games last year to begin with, and then hoping the offense can just do enough to win some games.
Yeah, and basically they got the memo where you saw that graphic. All offensive players drafted in the first handful of rounds for the Patriots. Yeah. Hopeful for them in 2 years, the Patriots can jump out of 4.5 wins, maybe up to 7, 8, something like that. Adam, thanks again for weighing in on all the Patriots information. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back.
As of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on SiriusXM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
If this wind, like we have out of the Northwest, was here all week, it would be insane watching these guys play in it. But it's going to be a southwest wind, which makes it a little easier as far as the direction of the wind. The guys will have it a little bit of a break on the back nine. But it is such a fun golf course, one that I really do think tests every single aspect of your game.
Only on SportsGrid.
Now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It was a fun weekend. A lot of things happening in sports. I know that we're headed toward the Olympics and football season, but some really cool events, I thought, in the Baseball Hall of Fame, having their ceremony. We're seeing players back on the field in the NFL and in college football as well. So we're going to touch on some of these topics as we end the show with some last licks. All right, let's begin with the Hall of Fame yesterday. New inductees going in, including Jim Leland, who you see there, as well as Joe Mauer and Adrian Beltre. I'll focus here on Leland here for a minute, just because I kind of find some of these ceremonies fascinating, and I've always been one of those who likes to watch the whole thing because I do like to see the old Hall of Famers coming back, and then I like to watch the speeches, see how they do. Leland is the one that hits closest home to me because he won a World Series with Miami, showed up in 1997, immediately won the World Series, one of the worst seasons ever, by the way, he had. People forget that, in 1998. But Leland was a fun guy to cover. You never knew what really you were going to get there. And with his experience with the Pirates, he was one of my favorites, all-time favorites as far as manager is concerned. The one thing that I always am a little perturbed by is when, the player or the manager decides that they're not going to wear a certain logo into the Hall of Fame or on their plaque. It just goes blank because they don't want to insult the fan bases. Like, at this point, it doesn't matter. Like, to me, just like make your choice. Whatever you feel the most comfortable with, you're the one that's going into the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame shouldn't really make that decision. And I know that these things sort of get pimped out, and that's kind of why they changed it through the years. There was a period of time where a couple of players wanted to wear, a different logo on their hat in the Hall of Fame because the team wanted them to, and so they were going to end up doing it. But I think this is a player or manager choice. I don't think this should be the Hall of Fame. It is the individual. So to me, I don't think Leland would go in as a member of the Marlins, even though he won a World Series there. Probably Tigers or Pirates. But for me, let him make the choice. Instead, it's a blank hat. All right, not a blank slate for Brock Purdy. Had a great year last year with the San Francisco 49ers, came into his own, and he is the starter. But what really gets people's attention this time of the year in the NFL is, Brock Purdy looks like he's in the best shape of his life. There you go. Brock Purdy pictures appearing on social media with him showing up to 49ers camp. As you see there, is Brock Purdy jacked? Purdy apparently in great shape, is bulked up. Again, Purdy suffered some injuries over the last couple of years, wasn't able to play in some games, but needless to say, a bigger, stronger quarterback is always going to move the needle in the NFL, and it definitely has on this show today. So Brock Purdy in best shape of his life, working out this offseason. He's bulked up. He's gained a lot of pounds. Congratulations to him. Now, imagine you're in an airplane and you're driving over Michigan and you see this guy, Dan Campbell. Not this guy, but this. Take a look at that. That is a cornfield maze in Michigan in the shape of Dan Campbell's face. True story here, folks. This actually has happened. One pride, go Lions. This is the thing here. The Lions are one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year, led by Dan Campbell, who some farm decided would be a good idea to have a cornfield with his face there. I love being on a plane and seeing these sort of things. I just was on a plane to the All-Star game in Texas. My son's looking out the window, looking at all the different fields and the stadiums and stuff like that. Although I think that's pretty cool and that's unique. Last week we did Bronny James and the rug with his face. That I'm not a huge fan of. This thing, much better idea, especially considering you can only see it from way above. But I'd like to do that maze, see if I can figure it out. All right, a maze would not be the description for what's coming up here on SportsGrid. We got a new schedule for you. I'm going to walk you through this here for a minute. If this is your first time watching, great. If you've watched us before many times, you're going to see some new programming coming up this afternoon. So let me get you all set for it. Coming up next, it is the early line from 12 to 1 Eastern. That doesn't change. But from 1 to 3 Eastern, Kaplan and crew make their debut right here on SportsGrid. Scott Kaplan, well-accomplished host and reporter in the NFL. Great show out in California. 1 to 3 Eastern. That makes its debut today. That follows by Scotty Farrell, Coast to Coast from 3 to 6. Game time decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then in-game live prime time. And then Gabe tonight on Sports Rage complaining about all of his bets in the Canadian Football League yesterday. Sorry, Gabe, can't win a ball. Also want to thank our guests on the show today, Adam Kaufman, Pat Evans, and Matt Lutovsky, and also our producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll be right back here for our next edition of NewsWire. That is Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, exclusively here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid TV. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you then.